Hi, everybody. Welcome to Weight and Gold, the YouTube channel and show. I am Dr. Leslie Golden of Weight and Gold, and we have a special treat today. We're going to start a series of working with and having conversations with our great providers. And it's very excited to have one of our dietitians here with us today, Aryn. And I'm going to let Aryn introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her background and what brings her to weight health.
Yeah, so I'm Aryn. I'm DeGrave, a registered dietitian, and I've been a dietitian for quite a few years now. I started in public health and public service, and then worked my way into retail, and have really settled and fully enjoyed working in weight health, and finding so much growth and connection with my patients here at Weight and Gold.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. And we are so glad that we have you in the Madison community and the Watertown community. So, and I always like to know, what did you wish more patients knew about weight health care, obesity care? Because it's definitely an area that we all have this lived experience, and we've learned from so many different influences what weight is, what obesity is, what overweight is. And what do you wish more patients knew about it?
When it comes to nutrition, and that's, I think, the area that I want to talk on the most, patients get so caught up in, I want that quick fix. I want that fad diet I heard about someone else online has been doing. And what patients what I want everyone to know is that sustainable changes will beat every quick fix out there every time. Those extreme diets, they tend to backfire. We might get really sick of them really quickly. They're not always conducive to our lifestyles. So really that's it. It's that, those small sustainable changes make so much more of a difference.
Yeah. And do you think that comes from, so many things of that eat less, move more story, or I know a lot of us have that experience of, well, it worked before. I think a lot of us have this, I did a diet before and it worked. But I always like to ask patients, but did it really work? And so where do you think this idea comes from for so many of us of I just need to find that perfect diet plan?
Yeah, I think the majority of the time it comes from marketing. So how someone else is presenting it, how it's being portrayed online. I did this and I lost all this weight. I did this and you can too. And so I think it comes down to, that marketing. And, if we are hearing these big claims, quick fixes, magic pill, magic plan, if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And yeah, I think it's unfortunately historically something that we've just seen so much within our culture, within society's views of weight and obesity care throughout the years, before we really started to talk more and more about obesity as a chronic disease.
Mm-hmm. And I think, that it's kind of that hope, right? Of if it was something that I could find that fix for, then this is fixed. And that's a easier pill to swallow, I guess, if you will, then I do have to make sustainable changes for health. If I am someone that my body will respond to that, right? Because with chronic disease, as we know, with obesity as a chronic disease, sometimes for many, it's not as simple as nutrition only. We know nutrition is a foundation for health, and patients can have an amazing nutrition plan, but that doesn't mean they're losing weight. And I think that's something a lot of patients don't understand too. I imagine you see those and talk with those patients all the time of they are eating really well. Why is my body not responding?
Right. And that's where that like one size fits all doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be more personal. It has to be, just have, nutrition that fits into your lifestyle versus fitting your lifestyle into your nutrition too.
Mm, that's so powerful and so it's so spot on because I think that's what so many people, and I know even me personally, I've tried to do in the past of like, okay, that's the diet plan that'll work. Okay, that doesn't make sense at all. And and I'm not going to be able to make that happen, but if that's what it's going to take, I can do that. And in the short term, I'm a stubborn person. Many of us are in some ways. Like I can do that for a short amount of time, but when the hunger sets in and real life sets in and fatigue and everything else, and it's like, gosh, I don't like this, and I'm tired, and it's a lot of work, and um, lifelong all of a sudden becomes a long time to
Right.
do something that doesn't work for me. Hmm.
Exactly. And that's where those sustainable changes, like unfortunately those small sustainable changes, we might not notice that weight loss or that change in our health right away, but over
Hmm.
time, yes, it's not like if
Yeah.
something's happening overnight, something else is going on. And it's
Hmm.
not going to stay there, right? And it's making those small changes over and over where we might notice a little bit more 2 years out.
Yeah. So what is when we talk about like sustainable changes
Hmm.
that could be a better pattern for us to reach our outcome? What does that look like? Because I know we talk to patients a lot about like small sustainable changes. Like in the real environment, what are some of those some some examples of what that would look like? And do I just do a bunch of them over time? Do I build on them? How do you work with the patient to create whatever a small sustainable change is for them?
Right. And going back to it's personal, right? So everyone's is going to be a little bit different. So, for example, someone that um, maybe is not eating vegetables, maybe I say, okay, we're going to put 3 baby carrots on your plate for dinner every day. Or I actually have had a patient with diabetes that one way that we were really working on incorporating vegetables was, okay, you're going to munch on some baby carrots as you're prepping your dinner. And,
Mm,
the classic Wisconsin meat and potato lifestyle, he didn't want to give it up. And I totally understand. So we worked on that small change of adding in baby carrots as a appetizer.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something that's approachable, adding to their wellness, and I think that that's right on. A lot of people have been told, and I think we see a lot of patients that are hesitant about working with a dietitian or nutritionist because they have this idea that they have to give up their life as they know it, right? They have to
Mhm.
give up the way they've interacted with food in that part of their life. And those are our rituals and our bonds. And for many of us, food's been our longest relationship. And that can be scary to think that you have to give all of the way that relationship up.
Exactly. And I feel like, speaking of relationship with foods, that's another area that we'll work on a lot within appointments with patients is how can we improve that relationship? Maybe if a patient has had a lot of trauma growing up and told about their body isn't how it should be, or the different stigmas that unfortunately a lot of our patients and ourselves have all gone through with societal views on body image, that maybe they have looked at food in a different light, and we will work to change that light, or change that perspective around food and focusing on how it's nourishing our body and talking about foods as nourishment versus just calories. And even that just mindset shift, and maybe it's a sticky note, and that's the one little sustainable change we're doing, of like a sticky note saying like food is fuel, and food is energy to get throughout the day. That can even just be a big change for a patient.
Yeah, I think sometimes understanding that we often talk about the why of eating and not just the what, rather than giving people lists of foods, good food and bad food and the not eat list and the good eat list, and really helping them understand and think of food in a different way and understand why are they eating and are they enjoying it, and that can make a difference as well too.
Absolutely. I mean, as a dietitian, I love eating and I want my patients to love eating, but we also know that it doesn't have to be the center of our joy either. So working through finding joy within our family life or our home life, or finding joy in our work life, can make a huge difference in how we view food too. So
you hear that? A dietitian saying it's great to eat food. I know. I think there is this idea, from our lived experience of they're going to tell me that I can't eat any of this stuff, and that's definitely not the case. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what do you wish you understood or did differently earlier in your career or training? Because I know I definitely had times early before I knew, as a doctor, I definitely was one of those doctors that was like, I don't prescribe medicine for weight. This is a personal thing, and I am thankful that I got educated and think about it differently. So, what do you wish you had understood earlier or done differently in your practice?
It seems so ridiculous to say this, but so important. Listening. I feel like I wish I learned more about how to listen earlier, because instead of that mindset of educate, tell them exactly what they need to do. I mean, as a young dietitian, I wanted to do that. I want to be like, oh my God, let me tell you all the great things that food can do for our body and blah, 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 right? But in reality, like, it's so much more important and can go such a longer way by just listening to my patients. And when I say listening, I'm not talking about like, oh, tell me about what you have for lunch. I'm talking about like, tell me about that relationship with food. Where have you seen your shift in like the relationship you've had with food through your lifestyle? What does your lifestyle or day-to-day look like? Because if I'm educating on 3 square meals a day, and it has to be 10, like 8, noon, and 5, that's not going to work for someone that works night shift, right? So listening to my patients has been so much more valuable in not just obesity medicine and obesity care, but like all nutrition education, or nutrition counseling in general, because there's so much more that goes on with a patient because they're a person. So learning more about them as a person is so much more valuable than that education.
That's so incredible. I mean, that helps us. I always like to think about that I'm the expert maybe in this field, but the patient is the expert in their life and where their goals and where they want their life to go. And if we are able to work together and have this great conversation, then we can create something that is going to work for them, right? And what you're describing just empowers you, like listening and really hearing from them what they need, what they want, what they value, what doesn't work, what's going to really make the difference for them. What does food mean to them? What do they need food to mean to them? And then if you hear that, you can actually level up your expertise in creating something for them that's going to stick with them because you were able to find something meaningful, right? And I know we've all been in, it's like we're in the room and it's like I'm the expert in the room and I want to share everything I know. It's so easy to get caught in that. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's exactly that. It's this is a person that's able to share their challenges. And I always tend to open up my appointments by like, how's it going? Because the answer to that question can be so different for every person. They could jump into nutrition right away and be like, I've been doing X, Y, and Z from the last time we talked. Or, hey, this is actually really bothering me. I want to work on, I don't know. I can't think of something off the top of my head, but like I really want to work on my protein today and really focus on some different protein sources. But I've had patients that have come in and been like, I'm actually having a really hard time. I lost a family member. I lost a friend. I'm struggling with a lot of stress at work right now, and I notice I'm eating everything in sight. Or I am just feeling so drained and exhausted, or I'm having symptoms like crazy. And if I didn't open up like that and I just went in with an agenda, that patient would have heard nothing.
Yeah. And what do you do for patients in those scenarios where they open up, they're trusting you and they bring forward this like, hey, I'm grieving, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm coping with food. I think for a lot of us, it's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna get scolded, right? Are patients shocked by your responses? How is your approach to that in that moment? Is it about this is the food you should be eating, or?
No, I'm always really going with an open mind of like, okay, so you told me about this loss, you told me about this stress, like, how is that affecting you? What have you noticed when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to your health? Just typically I say, how is that affecting your health? Because that could be, I'm lacking sleep right now. I don't want to get off the couch. Could be, like I said earlier, like I'm eating everything. I'm feeling like I'm just taking out my emotions through food. And it really depends on that person and that conversation. And I've even had appointments where we talked nothing about food. And at the end I've had patients like say sorry, like, so sorry, we didn't get to anything like nutrition related today. I'm like, that's okay. How are you feeling with what we talked about? And typically it's like, I feel so much better. I think I just needed to talk to someone.
Yeah, that's amazing. Providing the care that the patient needs that day, and really, really making sure they're given an opportunity to move forward where they're at in that time, right?
Exactly.
So.
And of course, I always have a little bit of an agenda for nutrition, and I have my dietitian lens on. But in those moments, it's like, well, how are you taking care of your body? How are you nourishing yourself in these moments? Do you want to talk about maybe some non-negotiables to focus on, such as, hey, every morning we're going to make sure we drink a full glass of water before we even have our coffee.
And sometimes that's it, right? That's all we got to do. Yeah.
Especially, with those going through a lot of travel for work, a lot of grief, stress, it might just be fast food and that's it. And maybe hydration is the best thing to focus on. And it's like, okay, drink that water. We know that you're getting that in, and that's good for now. Let's hold on to that.
Yeah. I really love how you're highlighting that, like, life doesn't happen in a vacuum. Life is life, and creating this situation where we're kind to ourselves. We practice self-care as we should always be prioritizing taking care of our bodies. And sometimes that is a kind and compassionate approach, and not always holding ourselves accountable. And we can get lost in that. Yeah. Well, this has been great topics. I'm so happy to hear some of the great conversations that are had. And I mean, really in this last section, I think you really demonstrated some of those like small sustainable changes that we always talk about, and how that can look in somebody's individual journey and in their life. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
you hit it right on the head, where saying life doesn't happen in a vacuum, right?
Yes.
We have this mentality going into having some really important goals for our health, that like, okay, all I have to do is, eat less, exercise more, and because that's what's always been talked about, right? We said that earlier. However, life doesn't happen in a vacuum. So how can we fit it into each person's individual lifestyle? And I feel like that's what we do really well at Weight and Gold, is that we're extremely patient centered. It's no one size fits approach. It's like, okay, what's going on in your life? Okay, how are we maintaining our goal like viewpoint and our why, and how are we finding the motivation to accomplish those?
Well said. Well said. It's very inspiring on a Friday afternoon for us. Well, everybody, Aryn, one of our amazing dietitians here at Weight and Gold. If you're needing a dietitian to work with at any stage of your journey, you can come and see Aryn either in the Watertown or Madison office. And thanks, Aryn, for coming on and having this great conversation with us. And I'm sure we'll have more topics to bring you back on at another day.
Thank you.